Treme dreams. The New Orleans air, thick with the perfume of jasmine and the earthy tang of the river, clung to Leo as he skipped rope in the cracked, sun-baked backyard. The rhythmic slap of the rope punctuated the distant strains of brass music bleeding over from Frenchman Street. He wasn't just skipping, he was channeling Ollie, a whirlwind of motion, a silent dance of sting and grace. He halted, breath ragged, wiping his forehead. Then, shadowboxing, he mimicked the champ's famous shuffle, throwing phantom punches at an invisible foe. "I am the greatest!" he crowed, his voice still untamed by adolescence. A feint to the left, then right, his slender frame held surprising power. He conjured the stadium's roar, the dazzling lights, the phantom taste of triumph. Later, the living room pulsed with the television's silvery light. Clarence, Leo's father, was settled in his favorite armchair, condensation beating on his glass of iced tea. Cross-legged on the floor, Leo devoured the black and white image of Ollie and Fraser locked in their brutal Manila dance. Each blow landed like a hammer strike. Leo flinched, feeling the force resonate in his own bones. Clarence observed the spectacle with a quiet intensity, his face a mask. "He's getting pummeled, Dad," Leo said, his voice tight with anxiety. Clarence took a measured sip. "He's got something saved, Leo. Ollie always does." Leo harbored doubts. Fraser was an unyielding force, a relentless engine of destruction. But then, in the waning rounds, a subtle shift occurred. Ollie, despite the visible damage, discovered a reserve of energy. He began to move again with that familiar fluidity, his jabs finding their mark with renewed precision. "Look, Dad!" Leo exclaimed, leaping to his feet. "He's got him on the ropes." A sudden storm of punches, and Fraser faltered. The referee intervened, signaling the end. Victory for Ollie. Leo exploded in cheers, jabbing the air with jubilation. Clarence offered a smile, a rare treasure. "See? I told you he had a plan." After the fight, as Clarence prepared for bed, Leo lingered, the images still flickering in his mind's eye. "Dad," he began, his tone earnest, "I want to be like Ollie." Clarence paused, hand on the light switch, and turned, his gaze softening. "How so, son?" Like a winner," Leo fumbled. "In the ring and out of it too. The way he stood up, for things. How he helped people." A slow nod from Clarence. "That's a worthwhile ambition, Leo. But emulating Ollie requires more than just throwing leather. It demands courage, principle, and a decent heart. It's about knowing your worth and standing firm, regardless of the cost." The following day, down by the levee, Leo found Jacques, a lean and quick-witted kid. The Mississippi flowed by, a sluggish ribbon of brown reflecting the expansive sky. "I'm going to be a boxer, Jacques," Leo declared, chest puffed out. Jacques arched an eyebrow. "You? A boxer? You run out of steam getting to Mrs. Du Bois' store." "I'm serious," Leo insisted. "I'm going to be the next Muhammad Ali." Jacques snorted. "Sure you are." Floating like a butterfly, stinging like a gnat. Leo scowled. "I can do it. I just need to train. And be brave like Ali." He recounted the fight with his father, Ali's tenacity, his unwavering self-belief. He spoke of Ali's defiance of the Vietnam draft, his willingness to risk everything for his convictions. "He's more than just a boxer, Jacques," Leo asserted, his voice ringing with admiration. He's a true hero." Jacques regarded Leo, mirroring the intensity in his friend's gaze. "Maybe," he conceded. "But being a hero isn't a cakewalk, Leo. It requires more than just wanting the title." Leo studied the Mississippi, its currents a constant push and pull. Jacques spoke the truth. It would be an uphill battle. But his mind was made up. He would dedicate himself to training. He would champion his beliefs. He would rise to become the champion he envisioned. He would be the next Muhammad Ali, not merely in the ring, but in the arena of life. He would be a champion of Treme. The golden ticket. The aroma of Clarence's Sunday supper, a hearty stew bubbling with carrots and beef, usually filled Leo with a sense of comforting anticipation. Tonight, however, his stomach churned with a different kind of hunger, a nervous energy that had been building all week. The rematch. Ali versus Spinks. He'd listened to the first fight on the radio, picturing every jab, every feint, every agonizing moment of Ali's defeat. Now, redemption was at hand. Clarence cleared his throat, pulling Leo from his reverie. "Got something for you, son." He reached into the inner pocket of his worn leather jacket, the one he usually reserved for important documents and family photographs. Leo's eyes widened as Clarence withdrew two rectangular pieces of cardstock. They shimmered under the warm glow of the kitchen light, emblazoned with bold lettering. Muhammad Ali vs. Leon Spinks, New Orleans Superdome. Leo's breath hitched. "Tickets?" he whispered, hardly daring to believe it. To the fight? But how?" Clarence chuckled, a low rumble in his chest. "A little birdie told me you were interested. Let's just say a favor was called in. A long-standing favor." He winked, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Leo snatched the tickets, his fingers trembling. He scrutinized them, as if searching for a hidden flaw, a cruel joke. Section 112. Row H, seats 5 and 6. Real. He looked up at Clarence, tears welling in his eyes. "Dad, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll go with me," Clarence replied, a rare softness in his voice. "Say you'll witness history." Leo launched himself across the small kitchen, engulfing Clarence in a bear hug. The smell of his father's pipe tobacco and Old Spice filled his nostrils, a familiar scent of strength and dependability. "Thank you, Dad." "Thank you." They spent the rest of the evening discussing the fight. Clarence, usually a man of few words, surprised Leo with his detailed knowledge of Ali's career, his voice filled with respect. "He's more than just a fighter, Leo. He stands for something. For what he believes in, even when it costs him." He paused, his gaze distant. "That takes courage." Leo nodded, absorbing his father's words. He knew about Ali's refusal to be drafted, the years of exile, the unwavering conviction that had cost him his title and his prime. He admired that courage, that refusal to compromise. Later, lying in bed, Leo stared at the ceiling, the image of the tickets burned into his mind. Sleep was impossible. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Ali dancing in the ring, a whirlwind of speed and grace, jabbing, weaving, and delivering that knockout punch. He imagined the roar of the crowd, the electric atmosphere of the Superdome, the palpable tension hanging in the air. He got out of bed and crept to the window, peering out at the moonlit street. Even the familiar sounds of the neighborhood, the distant rumble of a bus, the barking of a dog, seemed amplified, charged with anticipation. He pressed his forehead against the cool glass, trying to slow his racing heart. He thought about what Clarence had said about courage. He knew he wasn't nearly as brave as Ali, but he hoped, someday, he could find that same strength within himself, that same unwavering conviction to stand up for what was right, no matter the cost. Finally, just before dawn, exhaustion pulled him under, but even in his dreams he was ringside, the air thick with sweat and the smell of liniment, ready to witness history unfold. Arena of Dreams. The streets around the arena throbbed with a frenetic energy. Car horns erupted in a jarring chorus against the barkers' calls, their voices pitching bootleg programs and miniature boxing gloves. Usually so attuned to the pulse of Harlem, Leo felt almost swallowed by the chaos. Clarence, his hand a reassuring weight on Leo's shoulder, navigated him through the crush, his eyes calm and watchful. "Easy does it, son." Clarence's voice, a steady island in the storm, cut through the noise. "Don't get lost in the shuffle." Awed by the sheer mass of bodies, Leo could only nod, eyes wide. Never had he witnessed such a multitude, a shifting mosaic of faces, a spectrum of emotions converging on this one location. The very air seemed charged, a palpable tension that hummed beneath his skin. He overheard fleeting snippets of conversation, fragments of wagers and forecasts, all imbued with an almost sacred zeal. Near the entrance, the multitude intensified, a human current surging toward the brilliantly lit doorways. The mingled scents of popcorn and stale beer filled the air, spiced with the sharper tang of sweat and raw anticipation. Clarence produced their tickets, the small cardboard rectangles feeling oddly weighty in Leo's palm. They represented more than just entrance. They were a gateway to a shared experience, a collective aspiration. Stepping inside felt like crossing a threshold into another reality. The roar slammed into Leo, a physical wave of sound that stole the air from his lungs. The arena stretched before him, a vast, echoing space swirling with light and vibrancy. Banners displaying the fighters' names billowed from the rafters, their images magnified to mythic proportions. The ring, starkly illuminated by spotlights, looked surprisingly fragile at the center of it all. Leo strained his neck, trying to absorb the spectacle. Vendors threaded through the packed aisles, pushing refreshments. A nervous undercurrent vibrated through the space, a feeling of imminent release. He recognized neighborhood faces, Mr. Johnson from the barber shop, Mrs. Rodriguez from the corner store, even a couple of teachers, transformed by the electric atmosphere. Clarence steered him through the throng, expertly dodging knees and elbows. Their seats were perched higher than Leo anticipated, offering a sweeping panorama of the entire arena. From this altitude, the crowd resembled a single, breathing entity, a vast ocean of faces all focused on the same point. He sank into his seat, the worn plastic unexpectedly welcoming. A wave of exhilaration washed over him, a sense of connection to something larger than himself. This wasn't just a boxing match. It was a happening, a grand performance, a potential legend in the making. Clarence settled beside him, his presence a steady anchor in the swirling chaos. He offered Leo a subtle, knowing smile. Quite the sight, eh? Leo could only nod, speechless with wonder. A lump formed in his throat, a mingling of anticipation and reverence. The house lights faded, plunging the arena into near darkness. A hush descended, a collective holding of breath. Then, a beam of light stabbed through the darkness, isolating the ring. The announcer's voice resonated through the speakers, introducing the undercard bouts. Leo watched, transfixed, as the first two boxers entered the squared circle, their faces etched with grim resolve. The bell chimed, unleashing a whirlwind of punches and movement. But Leo's thoughts were already wandering, lost in the approaching presence of the main event. He envisioned Ali, his icon, his champion, stepping into that very ring. He conjured the image of the fluid footwork, the lightning-fast jabs, the unwavering self-assurance. A surge of pride swelled within him, a certainty that he was about to witness something extraordinary. He leaned forward, eyes riveted to the ring, his heart hammering against his ribs. The arena of dreams was igniting. The fight begins. The atmosphere vibrated. Not just with excitement, but with a palpable electricity that prickled Leo's skin. He clutched the cool metal of the railing, the mingled smells of stale beer and nervous perspiration filling his lungs. Above, the glare of the spotlights, amplified by the smoky haze, burned twin spots onto his vision. A wave of music crashed over them, an exultant fanfare that resonated through the floor and into his very bones. "He's here!" Clarence breathed, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. But Leo was already lost to him, rising, straining for a glimpse. First, the vanguard arrived, a wall of suits and dark glasses cleaving through the throng. Then he appeared. Muhammad Ali. He moved with a feline grace that belied his size, a ballet dancer in boxing shoes. The spotlight sculpted his features into an expression of serene assurance, a far cry from the playful swagger of the pre-match interviews. The crowd erupted, a thunderous wave threatening to engulf them all. Leo watched, captivated, as Ali flowed into the ring. He was a coiled spring, shadowboxing, a predator testing the limits of its domain. His opponent, Jenkins, a man etched with grim resolve, occupied his corner, his eyes betraying a flicker of apprehension. The bell's clang cut through the air, morphing the roar into a sustained bellow. Ali exploded into motion, a whirlwind of limbs and feints. Jenkins swung wildly, a clumsy arc of desperation that fell short. Ali glided away, a teasing smile playing on his lips. A jab, swift as a striking snake, found its mark, and Jenkins stumbled. Leo was riveted. He'd witnessed boxing's brutal side, the ugly brawls that left him queasy. This was different. This transcended mere sport. Ali wasn't just fighting, he was composing. He was crafting a masterpiece with each movement, a powerful, elegant dance. Clarence nudged him. See how he controls the space, Leo? He's forcing Jenkins to play his game. Leo nodded, absorbing the nuances. He saw it now, the subtle footwork, the carefully chosen angles. Ali's advantage wasn't just speed, it was intellect. During the break, Leo's gaze drifted to a woman ringside, a few rows in front of the press area. A stark contrast to the surrounding frenzy, she was a picture of composed focus. Immaculate in a tailored suit, her dark hair severely pulled back, she followed the match with an almost scientific detachment. She jotted notes on a small pad, her brow furrowed in concentration. He recognized her, Esme Walker, the Chronicle reporter. He remembered her pointed questions at the press conference, the ones that had visibly discomfited the promoter. While the masses roared and cheered, Esme remained still and watchful, her eyes keen and perceptive. She reminded him of an eagle, circling above the fray, seeing every detail. Her expression revealed nothing. He was curious about her thoughts. The second round commenced. Ali resumed his mesmerizing dance, effortlessly evading Jenkins, making him appear ponderous and outmatched. He peppered him with a series of staccato jabs, each blow snapping Jenkins' head back. The crowd chanted, "Ali! Ali! Ali!" The tide shifted subtly. Driven by desperation, Jenkins managed to trap Ali against the ropes. He unleashed a furious barrage of punches, a final, desperate assault. Leo's breath caught in his throat. He watched Ali absorb the blows, his expression unchanged. He saw him use the ropes to his advantage, deflecting the punches with his arms and shoulders. Then, with explosive force, Ali surged from the corner. A devastating right hook connected, sending Jenkins stumbling. The crowd erupted in approval. Esme Walker remained impassive. She merely adjusted her glasses and continued to document. The fight had barely begun, but Leo knew he was witnessing something exceptional. He felt with unwavering certainty that this night would be etched into his memory. It was more than just boxing, it was about something larger, deeper. It was about resilience, about artistry, about the power of a single individual to inspire the world. A moment of concern. The seventh round felt different. A shift, almost imperceptible, had occurred. Both fighters, sweat plastering their hair to their skulls, moved with a raw, desperate energy. Norton, a granite wall, absorbed punishment and retaliated with brutal efficiency. Ali, the dancer, seemed less fluid, his jabs lacking their usual sting. Leo, perched on the edge of his seat, felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He'd been swept away by the spectacle, by the chanting, by the sheer force of Ali's presence, but now a prickle of unease crawled up his spine. He glanced at Clarence, who sat beside him, his face an unreadable mask. Clarence had seen it all before, Leo knew. The rise and fall of champions, the brutal realities hidden beneath the dazzling lights. Suddenly, a ripple of commotion spread through the crowd a few rows down. It started as a murmur, then escalated into shouts of alarm. Leo craned his neck, trying to see over the bobbing heads. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice barely audible above the din. Clarence leaned forward, his eyes narrowed. "Something's happened." The fight continued, a brutal ballet of fists and footwork, but the rhythm was broken. The roar of the crowd was now punctuated by cries for help. Leo's gaze locked onto the source of the disturbance, a man slumped in his seat, his body limp, his head lolling against the shoulder of the person next to him. Panic flared around him. People were scrambling to their feet, pushing and shoving, their faces etched with fear. A woman screamed. The rhythmic chanting that had filled the arena only moments before dissolved into a cacophony of frightened voices. "Easy now," Clarence said, his hand resting gently on Leo's arm. "Don't get caught up in the rush." Leo's heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to help, to do something, but he felt paralyzed by the chaos. He watched, helpless, as a wave of bodies surged towards the fallen man. Someone was shouting for a doctor. Others were trying to clear a path. The referee, finally noticing the disruption, paused the fight. The sudden silence was jarring, amplified by the echoing cries of distress. Ali and Norton stood in the center of the ring, breathing heavily, their expressions a mixture of confusion and concern. Ali, ever the showman, leaned on the ropes and peered into the crowd, his brow furrowed. He gestured with his gloved hand, seemingly trying to get a better view of the situation. Leo felt a surge of admiration for Ali. Even in the heat of battle, he was aware of what was happening around him, concerned for the well-being of a stranger. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes. Clarence squeezed Leo's arm. "Stay put," he said firmly. "Let the medics through." The medics, 2 men in white coats, finally managed to reach the fallen man. They knelt beside him, their movements swift and efficient. The crowd held its breath, a collective silence descending upon the arena. Leo watched, his stomach churning, his earlier excitement replaced by a gnawing anxiety. He couldn't shake the image of the slumped figure, the fear in the faces of those trying to help. The fight, the championship, seemed insignificant in that moment. All that mattered was the life of the man lying motionless in the stands. He thought of his own father, of the fragility of life, of how quickly everything could change. A wave of nausea washed over him. He closed his eyes briefly, trying to regain his composure. The air, thick with sweat and anticipation only moments ago, now felt heavy with dread. Ali's humanity. A tempest of jabs and hooks assailed Shavers' implacable guard, Ali a kinetic marvel. Leo bellowed his support, his cry swallowed by the arena's pandemonium. In his mind, he mirrored Ali's lithe movements, the champion's assurance filling him. Beside him, Clarence observed with quiet intensity, his attention laser-focused on the unfolding drama. Then, an anomaly, unrest rippled through the crowd a few rows below, a wave of diverted attention eclipsing the spectacle in the ring. Leo craned his neck, spotting a man slumped in his seat, security carving a path through the dense rows. The electric energy of the match fizzled, replaced by a prickling unease. And then Ali saw. Even amidst the storm of battle, his perception was absolute. He recoiled from Shavers, palms open, a gesture devoid of aggression, signaling distress. He pointed toward the disturbance, his shout lost in the cacophony, his face shifting from fierce concentration to concern. Immediately, medics materialized, their orange jackets a jarring flash against the audience's vibrant attire. Ali halted the fight. Instead, he descended from the ring, his robe gleaming under the incandescent lights. He approached the ropes near the stricken man, standing sentinel amidst the rising panic, a beacon of calm. A knot formed in Leo's throat. This wasn't theater, the carefully orchestrated drama of pugilism. This was visceral, immediate, unsettling. He watched Ali, his broad frame a dark silhouette against the flurry of activity, his features etched with worry. Clarence squeezed Leo's shoulder, a silent reassurance. "He's doing what's right," he murmured, his voice steady. Leo nodded, riveted. He saw Esme, her expression resolute, forcing her way through the throng. Years as a nurse lent her movements a decisive quality that parted the chaos. She knelt beside the man, her actions precise and practiced. She assessed his condition, checking vitals, posing succinct questions. Leo registered the set of her shoulders, the crease in her brow, betraying her intense focus. "I need oxygen," she barked, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "Someone call for an ambulance, now!" Her urgency galvanized the crowd. Security, initially hesitant, moved with newfound purpose. Leo watched, spellbound, as Esme worked, her hands moving with balletic grace, her presence a sanctuary amidst the burgeoning crisis. After an agonizing wait, the man stirred, his eyelids fluttering. A collective sigh of relief washed over the nearby spectators. Esme continued her assessment, her expression softening as she spoke in soothing tones. Soon, paramedics arrived, gently transferring the man to a stretcher. Esme accompanied them, her hand resting on his arm in silent encouragement. Leo turned back to the ring. Ali remained, watching the paramedics vanish into the tunnel. He seemed magnified, his presence radiating strength. He raised a gloved hand in a silent tribute towards the vacated space, a gesture of respect and solidarity. The crowd roared not for the fight, but for Ali's humanity. In that instant, Leo grasped something profound. It wasn't solely about speed, power, spectacle. It was about compassion, empathy, the willingness to step away from the limelight and acknowledge the shared human experience. A champion's salute. A profound quiet descended, a heavy curtain woven from bated breath and murmured hopes. Leo, perched tensely forward, felt his pulse hammer in his temples. The harsh glare of the arena lights seemed to contract, intensifying their focus on the small, frantic activity near the aisle. Medics darted about, security wore masks of concern, and then, a blessed, gradual movement. A collective exhalation, a wave of relief, swept through the stands. Leo sagged back, his racing heart gradually returning to a normal pace. He gripped his father's hand, the familiar roughness of his calluses a comforting solidity amidst the swirling anxiety. Clarence offered a curt nod, eyes still glued to the scene. "He's coming around," Clarence rumbled, his voice a low vibration. "Thank God." Leo followed Ali's solitary figure at the ringside, a picture of stillness against the chaotic backdrop. The boxer stood with his hands resting on the ropes, expression inscrutable. As the medics assisted the injured man to sit, Ali leaned in, speaking silently. Leo couldn't discern the words, but imagined them, words of solace, of encouragement, a bond forged in shared struggle. Pale and dazed, the injured fighter managed a feeble smile and nod. Then, carefully supported by the medics, he was ushered away, disappearing into the shadowed tunnel. The crowd stilled, suspended in uncertainty. The fight receded in importance, replaced by a shared sense of vulnerability. Could Ali recover his focus? Could the electric charge that had crackled through the air return? Then Ali broke the spell. He pivoted toward the ring, his face still bearing a trace of worry, overlaid by a renewed sense of purpose. He climbed back between the ropes, each movement measured, each step imbued with the gravity of the moment. Instead of immediately adopting his fighting stance, he walked to the center of the canvas, his gaze roaming the crowd, acknowledging everyone present. A knot tightened in Leo's throat. This wasn't the Ali of pre-fight boasts and dazzling footwork. This was a man, humbled by a stark reminder of life's fragility, the universal truth of mortality. Slowly, deliberately, Ali raised his right hand, encased in its glove. Not in a fist of aggression, not in a triumphant gesture, but in a simple, reverent salute. A tribute to the fallen fighter, to the healing hands, to the spectators, to life itself. The silence exploded, replaced by a wave of applause. This wasn't the roar of bloodlust, it was the sound of gratitude, of respect, of collective understanding. The audience rose as one, faces radiant with a newfound appreciation. Tears welled in Leo's eyes. This wasn't just a boxing match. It was a lesson etched in sweat and pain. Clarence's hand rested heavily on Leo's shoulder. "He's showing them, son," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Showing them what being a true champion means, beyond the ring." Ali lowered his glove, his gaze still encompassing the crowd. A single nod, a silent acknowledgement of their shared humanity. He then turned to face his opponent, his eyes now burning with redoubled resolve. The fight was back on, but the atmosphere had been irrevocably transformed, imbued with a profound respect and empathy. Leo knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that this was a moment he would carry with him always. He had witnessed not simply a boxing match, but a powerful testament to compassion, empathy, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. Ali's salute had traveled beyond the ropes, touching the hearts of everyone present, a reminder that even amidst fierce competition, they were all united, bound by their shared humanity. The air vibrated with a sense of transformation, as though the very molecules hummed to a new, more resonant frequency. More than a fight. The bell's sudden clang shattered Leo's concentration, a rude interruption to the lingering image of Ali kneeling by the injured spectator. He blinked, refocusing on the screen. The combatants, slick with exertion and panting heavily, locked horns once more at the center of the canvas. Yet something had fundamentally altered in Leo's understanding. This was more than mere combat, it was a demonstration of something profound. Ali moved with reinvigorated elegance, his jabs now more precise, his footwork more nimble. It transcended brute force, it embodied purpose. Each strike resonated with a sense of duty, an unstated pledge to transcend the role of mere pugilist. "You seeing this, Leo?" Clarence asked softly, his attention riveted to the spectacle. "He's battling for something beyond the belt now." Leo nodded, enthralled. He perceived it, a spark in Ali's gaze previously absent. A resolve fueled not by egotism but by a deeper wellspring. The adversary, a formidable presence himself, seemed to buckle beneath Ali's revitalized offense. The commentators were abuzz, dissecting the apparent shift. "Ali's tapped into another echelon," one declared. "He's unleashing a fury unseen thus far tonight." Leo recognized it wasn't just fury, it was steadfast belief. Memories flooded back of Clarence's narratives, Ali's defiance of the Vietnam draft, the forfeiture of his title, and the consequent persecution endured for his convictions. He recalled images of Ali's hospital visits, the solace he offered to children, his outspoken condemnation of injustice. "He sacrificed everything for his beliefs, didn't he?" Leo inquired, his voice barely audible. "Everything but his conscience," Clarence affirmed, his voice resolute. "And that's the singular thing of genuine consequence." On the screen, Ali pirouetted around his opponent, a whirlwind of motion and pinpoint jabs. Each movement was calculated, purposeful, charged with intent. This evolved past a mere brawl. It was a presentation, a defiant dance of unwavering resolve. Leo watched, spellbound, his earlier unease dissipating. The visceral energy of the boxing match blended with a burgeoning comprehension of the man behind the myth. He regarded Ali not merely as a champion but as an emblem, a ray of light in a world often clouded by shadows. The contest dragged on, each round a punishing trial of stamina and willpower. Leo felt each impact viscerally, his heart mirroring the fighter's labored breaths. He was no longer an impartial bystander. He was engaged, empathizing with the struggle unfolding before him. Clarence rested a hand on Leo's shoulder, a soundless expression of support. "He's flawed, Leo," he observed gently. "As we all are. But he leverages his influence to advocate for the voiceless. That's the essence of his uniqueness." Leo met his grandfather's gaze, his eyes shimmering with newly acquired understanding. He grasped that true championship extended beyond mere victories. It was about employing one's voice, one's capacity, to effect positive change. In the final round, Ali unleashed a torrent of blows, a relentless barrage that forced his opponent into retreat. The crowd roared, a thunderous wave of sound that rattled the room. The referee intervened, halting the fight. Ali had triumphed. Yet, even as the crowd erupted in jubilation, Leo intuited that the victory signified more than just claiming the title. It represented a triumph of bravery, of certainty, of an unyielding faith in something larger than oneself. It was a victory that reverberated far beyond the squared circle, a tribute to the resilience of the human spirit. The legacy of a champion. The mingled scent of cooked vegetables and day-old bread hung stagnant, a world apart from the prior night's electric boxing match. Leo, absorbed, spooned hearty lentil soup into a cracked bowl, a crease deepening between his brows. The arena's roaring energy had been exchanged for the soup kitchen's hushed atmosphere, its dazzling spectacle for the dull fluorescent buzz. He'd sought solace at St. Vincent Delaware Paul's, chasing a ghost of the fervor Ali had ignited. The bout itself, a visceral dance of power and resolve, now felt distant, almost dreamlike. What lingered was Ali's essence, beyond his prowess as a fighter. "Easy there, son," a gravelly voice interrupted. Mrs. Rodriguez, her face a roadmap of hardship, gave his arm a gentle tap. "You'll spill it." Heat rose in Leo's cheeks as he recoiled. "Sorry, Mrs. Rodriguez." "Don't apologize." Be helpful. These people are hungry. She indicated the line of weary souls inching forward, their faces etched with life's burdens. He refocused, dispensing soup with newfound care. He caught glimmers of appreciation in their eyes, fleeting smiles that softened their features. It wasn't the hero worship Ali commanded, the clamorous ovation and blinding lights. But it possessed its own authenticity, a distinctly human connection. Later, perched on the church steps, the evening's coolness a soothing balm on his face, Leo pondered Ali. He'd been captivated by his agility, his force, the way he seemed to float across the canvas. But the allure extended beyond mere athleticism. It encompassed his self-assurance, his unwavering conviction, his outspoken nature, even when unpopular. News clips flashed through his mind: Ali's activism, his refusal to be drafted, his vocal stance against racial inequality. At the time, he'd only perceived a celebrity causing a stir. But now, after this humble service, witnessing the quiet fortitude of those struggling, it resonated profoundly. Ali hadn't just battled opponents between the ropes. He'd confronted injustice, poverty, indifference. And he'd done it with unparalleled magnetism. Leo's mind conjured an image of Ali towering over his defeated adversary, extending a gesture of respect, not reveling in triumph. That defined a true champion's legacy, eclipsing mere accolades and titles. It was about your actions, the impact you had. A surge of resolve stiffened his gaze as he rose. He might lack Ali's physical gifts, but he possessed his spirit. And he could channel that, beginning locally. He could volunteer, offer aid, challenge inequity wherever it surfaced. The years blurred. The memory of that fight receded, supplanted by a rich collage of life experiences. Leo finished high school, pursued higher education, and secured a position as a social worker. The lessons gleaned from Ali remained etched in his mind. He remained dedicated to volunteer work, spearheading food drives, mentoring vulnerable youth, and campaigning for affordable housing. Fame eluded him, stadiums never echoed with his name. Yet he witnessed the tangible results of his efforts in the lives of those he served. He saw their burgeoning hope, the resilience they summoned to face adversity. One scorching summer afternoon, while helping teenagers decorate a community center with a mural, Leo overheard one of the boys excitedly describing a boxing match. "That guy was incredible," he gushed, his voice ringing with admiration. "He was, like, invincible." Another scoffed. "Whatever, fighting's just fighting. It doesn't prove anything." A knowing smile touched Leo's lips. He moved closer, resting his paint-splattered hands on his hips. "It can prove something," he countered, his tone calm but resolute. "It's not just about what happens inside the ring, it's about your actions outside of it. It's about leveraging your strength to uplift others. That's what defines a genuine champion." He paused, picturing Ali, recalling the soup kitchen, considering all the small acts of compassion that accumulated into something substantial. "Remember that," he urged. "Remember that, and you'll never truly be defeated."